welcome to Spoiler Peace Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Evan Crean. My pronouns are he, him. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast.
And my name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I, too, am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics.
And unfortunately, Dave couldn't join us this week, so we miss him.
We miss you, Dave.
We'll carry on in your stead, Dave. I hope you understand. We have two movies we're going to talk about in the main episode, but before we get to those, I'll mention that over on our Patreon this week, on our Patreon exclusive audio, we decided to talk about the 1985 film Real Genius in honor of the late Val Kilmer. And that was a really fun discussion for both of us. It was a revisit, so definitely had some fresh thoughts on our most recent viewing. And if you're a patron, check that out. And if you're not, please consider joining. For $5 a month. You get access to weekly bonus episodes where we talk about movies, generally older ones, sometimes new ones, but mainly older ones. Very high likelihood you've seen it. And you also get to vote in monthly polls, and we'll have one of those coming up later this month. And yeah, it's a pretty good time. So definitely consider joining. And while I'm at it, I want to say thank you to our sponsor piece patron, Heather Sachs. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks so much, Heather.
Appreciate your support. All right, so for movies tonight, or today, or whenever you're listening to this, but we recorded at night, we are going to be talking about the comedy, Sacramento, and the horror thriller Drop. So we're going to start with Sacramento. This is written and directed by Michael Angarano and co-written by Christopher Nicholas Smith. It stars Michael Angarano, Michael Cera, Maya Erskine, Kristen Stewart, and I think that's all the important people. So I'll do our quick IMDb summary, and then we'll delve right into it. So we've got an energetic and free-spirited young man convinces his longtime friend, who settled into domestic life, to go on an impromptu road trip from Los Angeles to Sacramento. I guess we have Michael Angarano, who is kind of he's a free spirit. Yeah, I would say he's kind of, drifting around. Like we see him in the beginning, he's just kind of like hiking through the woods, and he's like nude sun tanning in some fold out chair, and then Maya Erskine from across the lake was like, nice dick. And probably the only funny line in the movie. So they meet and they hang out, and then we see that it's a year later, and Michael Angarano's character Ricky, he's in therapy, at like a group therapy, but he's totally like monopolizing the conversation and trying to direct the group therapy also. And the woman after is kind of like, I can't kick you out of this group, but you need to not come back. And so he ends up going to see his friend Glenn, who's played by Michael Cera, and Glenn is a mess. His wife, Rosie, who's played by Kristen Stewart, is pregnant, like pretty pregnant, and he's a mess. He's like not at his job, very clearly suspended due to some type of like breakdown / anger issues. And when we first see him, he's kind of like leaning over a crib in the baby's room, and he starts shaking it to like test its sturdiness, which turns into him basically like ripping the crib apart because he has got some very serious anger problems. And so Ricky shows up at the door and is like, hey, like, I haven't seen you forever. Let's hang out. And Glenn is like, really doesn't want to. He's, telling Rosie, like, I don't even want to hang out with this guy anymore. Like, he's too wild, too unpredictable. Like, I don't even want to be friends with him anymore. She's like, you should go. So they like hang out, and Ricky has like bought Glenn's old car and like fixed it up, and is like, oh, let's hang out and go for a drive. And then he makes the like wild suggestion, like, oh, let's go on a road trip to Sacramento. And then Glenn is kind of like, I don't know, fine, I'll go. And then Ricky's like, well, my dad died and, Sacramento is really important to him. So I want to go scatter his ashes, which is a lie. His dad did die, but he died over like a year ago. And those aren't his ashes. It's like a tennis ball container filled with dirt. And so they go and just, typical, like they go out like drinking they meet these two women and go back to their place. And it's more really just about Ricky potentially hooking up with this woman, even though he's like, can we not hook up maybe? And what else happens? Ricky purposely gets their car towed so that they're stuck there for another day. And it turns out the real reason why he has asked Glenn to come is because Maya Erskine not only was pregnant, but had the baby. And he had all these messages on his phone about it that he never responded to. And he's kind of figured out like, okay, I need to go see her. I need to go meet my kid. And I need to, I guess, maybe see if she'll let me be a part of this kid's life or her life, etc. And so that's kind of like the crux or the kind of like major thing that they need to go do as they show up at that house. And he's like, can I be a part of this? Like, can I help you? At first she's kind of like, no, like, I don't want any, like, I don't need you. And then she's kind of like, I am really tired. Maybe I could use some help. And yeah, so then he does stay and then they do get together and, Glenn and Rosie have their baby. And then Glenn and Ricky start this like, it's like a bros like support group kind of thing, where it's like men sit around and talk about their emotions and process them because that's an okay thing to do. Men, we're allowed to have emotions and talk about them and process them in a healthy way. And that's kind of like where the movie ends up. Is they're still friends, they're still hanging out, they're running this group together, even though they're kind of living far apart still. Like Ricky is settled in Sacramento, I think is what they're implying. But yeah. Did I miss any major plot points, Megan?
Oh, yes. I was going to say no, but yes, there is a major, major plot point. When Glenn and Ricky go to Tally, whatever her name is, Maya Erskine's house, and Ricky is like talking and kind of going through the whole spiel of why he feels he wants to be there and blah, 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 blah. Glenn is having like kind of a panic attack, nervous episode because the camera keeps focusing on the things around the house that he thinks are unsafe. And so he's like, oh, can I just use your bathroom? So he goes to the bathroom and he calls a dude and it's very weird. It's like an old friend and he's like being weird with his friend, like being kind of argumentative. So anyway, then he goes into the baby's room and he steals the baby.
Yeah, I don't know
and
how
drives
I forgot
away.
About this.
Yeah, and steals her car and drives away.
Right. And they have to catch up to him at a gas station and stop him from... I don't even know what his plan is. I don't even think he has a plan. I think he's just out of his mind. He is just completely, unhinged at the moment and has lost all perspective. But yeah, it is a very strange plot point. I was surprised that the movie went there. Like, I was not expecting it to go there. I was not expecting kidnapping to become part of this movie in any way, shape, or form.
Definitely not. Yeah. Did not see the kidnapping coming.
Right. So yeah, they're able to thankfully, talk him down from the situation. But yeah, it's super awkward. And while I'm talking about that scene, it's also really weird because like Ricky has gone on this whole like spiel about like, oh, I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna be helpful, and then like him and Glenn sit in the car and like talk it out. While meanwhile Tally is like holding the baby, just standing around in like the sun. In the gas station, like, what, dude? Come on.
Like, get your asses out of the car and have her go in her car and get some AC. Because she's been like scootering the whole time.
Yeah, that's right. She was scootering and Ricky was like running after her the entire day. It's a pretty zany like chase sequence for a kidnapping. So like a serious kidnapping subplot. Anyway, as you might discern, listeners, that there's definitely a lot going on here. So let's get into what you thought about it, Megan.
Oh, God. I mean, I feel like anything good about this movie was squandered by many things,
Mm-hmm.
most of which can be summed up by the baby napping. Yeah, I found this an incredibly uneven experience watching, because at first the opening scene in on the hike at the lake, I was like, "Oh, this is so cute. This is such a
Mm-hmm.
cute meet cute. I'm here for this." And I really like Maya Erskine as an actress. I think she's great. I think she's funny. And anytime she was on screen, I was interested. I was compelled. I was intrigued. I was like, wanted to see where this was going. Anytime she wasn't, which is the majority of the film,
Yeah.
I found it extremely tedious. I was very frustrated. And there are moments here. There are really good, poignant moments. And I think that the issues and the themes that it's delving into, where two best friends have grown apart, and that's compelling or potentially compelling. I think the
Mm-hmm.
fact that Michael Cera's character, whose name I can't even remember now, Glenn. Yeah, thank you. The fact that Glenn is so terrified about being a father, but also that he won't get help for his clear, serious mental health issues, alarmingly serious.
Yeah.
That could have been compelling, could have been interesting. I think Ricky, the fact that he's kind of just drifting through life, but also doing a lot of lying and deception and trying to manipulate people, like the way he does in the group therapy and the way he does Glenn. I don't think he's ready to be a father at all. And I don't think he's ready by the end of the film either. But again, I think there's something potentially compelling there as far as his issues go, and how he hasn't fully reconciled with the loss of his father. And I think one of my favorite scenes is actually when he does he actually hasn't spread his father's ashes, and he goes back to the lake at the end, near the end of the film, and he spreads his
Mm-hmm.
father's ashes, and he sits there with the urn. And that's kind of a very lovely scene. And I feel like Michael Angelano, as the lead and the co-writer and the director, he's trying to delve into all these issues of mental health and fatherhood and masculinity, which is great. That's admirable. These could have been really compelling things, and fractured friendship. But it just doesn't come together. For me, the biggest problem is the writing. It's extremely thin. There's just not enough for these actors to delve into. The jarring tone just did not work for me. And I was like, okay, this movie's whatever, it's fine. But then when the baby napping happened, I'm like, yeah, no, this is just so not my speed. This is just not for me. And the fact that Tally and him just a year later, they not only are they together, but they have another baby on the way. Has he really convinced her that he's the right person? I don't know. I'm so annoyed.
Well,
I'm like, she deserves better. What the fuck is happening? And then same with Glenn and Rosie, Kristen Stewart's character. Rosie is so disgusted and irritated with Glenn. She just can't wait for him to get out of her space and out of her hair, because she's so annoyed, and she's so almost to the point of volatility to him. And it's like, why are you with him? I know you're about to have a baby, but what's going on here? And he needs to be serious therapy, possibly in a hospital. And everything's just peachy keen at the end, woohoo, we're having babies, and now we have a therapy group, and everything's great. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So I was annoyed, I was bored at times, and I was highly frustrated by the end. So I think there are good things here, but it did not come together for me. God, I'm so annoyed just talking about this movie. What did you think, Evan?
I mean, a lot of the same thoughts, if I'm being honest. I think this movie is a mess, for sure. It has some really amazing actors in it that are given subpar material to work with. And I think there are some, like you said, poignant moments. There are some, I know I made that joke about that being the only funny line in the movie. I think there are funny exchanges between Ricky and Glenn, mainly in the vein of when Ricky's trying to use therapy speak against Glenn, and Glenn at one point says, "Stop telling me what things mean," because he's just been like, "Oh, gaslighting, that means blah 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 blah. Oh, and you're doing, transference or whatever." He's defining these like terms, and those moments are quite funny between the two of them. But yeah, it seems like the point of this movie is that it's trying to like speak to men who like are not good at processing emotions and being like, maybe you should get help, maybe you should talk about these things.
Right.
But the problem is that those men are not going to watch this movie.
That's a great point.
Those men have toxic masculinity and traits that would make them watch the opposite of this movie. Like, they're not going to watch a movie with Michael Cera being the angry guy. And that's honestly an interesting thing. Is I've never seen Michael Cera play angry and be this
that's
angry.
A good point.
And I think that is really, it's unusual. And I found it fascinating at moments seeing him just with this perpetual look like he's about to, if he had his hands on his armrests in the movie theater, I would think he would rip them off because he was gripping them so tightly. And I was interested in that, but otherwise, this movie, like you said, it's a mess. It's slow. It can be tedious at times. The kidnapping part is, it's odd and not pleasant to watch. And, the characters at the end as you said, don't have earned endings. They have not earned, as characters, they have not earned them. But also, like, we as viewers have not watched them earn them. Like, we haven't seen Ricky really step up and be the kind of dad that he needed to be to still be with Tally and to have another kid on the way.
Right.
We haven't seen Glenn do the work to get his shit together and to be the kind of partner who is there for Rosie and not someone who is constantly making things worse, as she says, or is someone so bad that she has placenta previa and she has to go to the hospital. This is like a fairly serious thing that she goes to the hospital and doesn't even want to tell him because she's worried that he is just going to spiral or make it worse.
Right.
So we haven't seen him be the kind of partner that she can tell these things to, or that is there for her during these serious times. And I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things about the movie is that we don't see them complete those journeys. They're just fast-tracked at the end in the interest of time.
Totally. If I had a partner that I couldn't tell a serious dangerous medical issue, that would be it. I would be gone. I mean, and I know that is far easier said than done. And people are in relationships for lots of reasons. People love people for lots of reasons. But my God, like that alone is like, wouldn't that make you question everything? Like, oh my God, this movie. Like, why are these two together? Why?
Yeah.
And Kristen Stewart deserves better. She's such a phenomenal actress. She deserves better material.
Yes, she does. She's great. And I was like, oh, wow, Kristen Stewart's in this. I didn't know she was in this. And then like, oh, she doesn't really have anything interesting to do. All right. That's a bummer.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, the part that I found the most interesting was, well, not later in the film, but in the beginning, the chemistry between Maya Erskine and Michael Andorano. And then they're married in real life, which I did not know. So, yeah.
There you go.
Surprise.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. They have a baby and they're married. So good for those two.
Yes. Good for them. Not good for this movie, unfortunately.
Yeah. No. But also, I don't know, like, what happened to those two? Like, the whole time we're watching before we find out about his dad die, I thought she was the one who maybe died.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's not where the movie went, which is fine.
No, I hadn't considered that, but that would have probably been more interesting. I don't mean to be crapping on this movie. I really don't. I'm not trying to just, take a shit on it. It's just, I don't know. I didn't have super high expectations going in, but I like all these people generally. And, I'm here for a road trip movie. I'm here for a buddy movie.
Me too. I love a road trip movie.
I am here for this type of indie comedy. And
yes,
there were some decent ideas maybe here, but they didn't come together, unfortunately.
No. I will say that the cinematography looks great and the sound design is great. So there's that. It is well made on those technical fronts.
Yes. Agreed on both counts.
Yep. And seeing the drive from LA to Sacramento was lovely. It's a beautiful drive.
Yeah, it was. I also liked seeing the fact that Glenn, in all of his I don't know, his issues, let's just say, there's that scene where he wakes up the next morning at the women's apartment and he had been sleeping on the children's play mat the entire time, and then he just straightens up their entire house.
That's what I was going to say is that's the one part I actually laughed out loud hard at was, so Ricky leaves a note and he's like, oh, hey, I went with the women to the farmer's market. Yeah. And then when they come back, Glenn's like folding baby clothes and everything is neat. That made me laugh. That was really well executed.
Yeah. That was a funny moment. I could also relate to that because I could see myself doing that in someone else's house. If I felt like it was that much of a mess, if I was there left to my own devices, I probably would start folding the laundry and doing the dishes and making it so that I wouldn't also feel like I'm looking around the room just going, oh.
I will say, to the film's credit, that is very spot on because environments very much can affect your state of mind, your mood. And he clearly was bothered by any kind of mess or disorganization or chaos. So I will say kudos to the film for that.
Yes. Kudos. Agreed. Yeah. Man, I wish this was better.
Me too.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about?
I don't think so. Oh, okay. I will say Rosalind Chow as the therapist who's running the group. I always like seeing her. She has a very tiny, tiny role, but I always like seeing her.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what I know her from, but I've definitely seen her in things. Oh, yeah. 3 Body Problem. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've definitely seen her in stuff. Gotcha. Yeah, she was good in the tiny role.
Yes.
Alrighty. So, moving on. So, we are going to talk about Drop now. Drop is directed by Christopher Landon. It is written by Gillian Jacobs and Chris Roach. And it stars Megan Fahey and Brandon Sklenar. And who else is in this? Violet Bean, Reed Diamond, and I feel like those are the main people in it. I'll do our IMDb summary and then we'll jump into it more. A widowed mother's first date in years takes a terrifying turn when she's bombarded with anonymous threatening messages on her phone during their upscale dinner, leaving her questioning if her charming date is behind the harassment. I don't think she thinks for very long, almost at all, if their date is behind this harassment. I feel like
I do.
Yeah, really? I feel like she didn't think for very long that he was doing it. I think she was looking around the restaurant thinking it could literally be like anybody else in the room than him.
No, I got the sense that it could be anyone in the room, including him.
Okay. So let's see. So let's flesh it out a little more. So she's a therapist. She specializes in trauma and domestic abuse. And she also herself is a survivor of domestic abuse. Her husband is dead. Her ex is dead. She has a kid who's now 5 years old.
Yep.
And I think she lost her husband about the same amount of time ago. And so, yeah, she's going on this date. She's been chatting with this guy for 3 months, taking it real slow. She's finally going to go on the date. Her sister is like, yeah, let me get you wearing a decent outfit to go on this date. She's going to this really fancy restaurant with a pretentious sounding name. It's called Palette. And it's when I was like, hoity-toity restaurants with a view. Like, it looks like a really nice restaurant. And
You're like a hoity-toity restaurant, those.
yeah, come on, right? I mean, the place is called Palette. Like, yes, I'm going to Palette for dinner.
I mean, I'm someone who likes to go to hoity-toity restaurants, so this was right up my alley.
Yeah, I mean, I like them too, but I just let's acknowledge the name is just silly. Like, trust me, I like to eat. Don't get me wrong. I like a view too, which this movie offers.
Yeah.
So yeah, she gets there and he seems nice off the bat, but she's feeling awkward and uncomfortable, and then her phone just starts blowing up with notifications. And yeah, she's getting these like anonymous drops of like somebody trying to engage her, and then after she's like not taking the bait, then they're like, why don't you look at your security cameras? And then there's like a masked intruder in the house with her sister and kid, and they're like, you got to do what we say, otherwise we're gonna kill your sister and kid. And so that just sets in motion the rest of the movie, where she's like getting all these like menacing messages constantly on her phone and being directed to do things like, he's a photographer, so like steal his SD card and smash it in the bathroom, and then you gotta like poison his drink and kill him, otherwise we'll kill your kid. And like every moment where it's like she's trying to think of ways maybe to get someone's attention, to call for help, they're seeing it all. Like, she writes on her like $20 bill that she's tipping the pianist because she met him like at the bar, and she jokingly requested him to play Baby Shark, so she like writes in lipstick on the note, and then he gets it and then goes to the bar and he tries to call for help, and then they get to him and he gets poisoned and he dies from the poisoning. And what else is going on here? So she's there's all these like instructions for her, and anytime she like tries to do something, like to go to the lobby to use the computer, they're like, oh no, gotcha, we can see that you're doing something there, because supposedly they've like cloned her phone and can see everything that she's doing and hear everything she's doing. And yeah, it's just escalating situations inside this restaurant of how much further can they try to push her to do what they want, while the entire time she's trying to figure out, who the hell is this that's tormenting me, and can I, save my kid and my sister? Can I get to them in time? So, okay, so remind me what more happens here.
So there's also, as far as the instructions go, they sure do escalate, because then she has to go back to the bathroom and go into the like paper towel dispenser.
That's
and then
right.
There's a little vial in there of poison, and they want her to poison her date's drink. And kill him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so at first she's like, hell no. But then she's kind of like, well, I don't really have a choice if I want to save my son. So how can I like try to make this work? Like situations where she's like, you know what? When things kind of like reach a fever pitch where she's like, he's ready to leave because he's just had enough of all of these like shenanigans and erratic behavior. Whereas like she lost her watch, but then he finds it in her bag when it, falls over, and like she wants to get them shots of tequila, and then the bartender's like, oh, do you want limes? And she's like, no. And then she goes and sits down, and she's like, oh, I totally forgot the limes. Like, why don't you go get them? He goes to the bar, and the bartender's like, oh, she's changed her mind about the limes. So there's like all these moments where he's kind of like, what is going on? This woman is clearly lying to me. Like, at the bare minimum, she's just like not ready to go on a date.
Right.
But like also it's creepy, all these lies. Why is she lying to me about all this stuff? It's really sketchy. So he's about to leave, and then they tell her like, if he leaves, then your kid's dead. So she kisses him and keeps him there. And yeah, things just keep escalating. She's looking around the room. She's like pretty sure it could be this one guy who's kind of like smug, and she keeps like bumping into him, and he's there like waiting for someone supposedly, but just every time she looks over at him, he's like smirking at her, and then like he's texting on his phone, and she like immediately gets a text from the person who's tormenting her like right after that. And yeah, eventually she deduces that it is this guy who's there that she talked to in the beginning, who is like kind of a nerdy looking older guy who's supposed to be there on a blind date. He's the one that's behind it, and it's like the photographer, her date, works for the mayor, and he's taken some photos of things that are very incriminating for the mayor. So like their plan is, bump him off, but make it like she did it because she, has this history, and they can just be like, oh, the crazy like lady who killed her husband, killed this guy too. So that's like the plot. And then, of course, in true movie fashion, she's able to pretend like she slipped the poison into the shot, but in fact, she slipped it into the guy's poison, and she slipped into the guy's dish, the poison. And so he like starts shooting, and then like hits a hole in the window, and she throws the hockey puck at the window, which like breaks, and he goes flying out and spectacularly crashes into the sign at the bottom. And then she has to frantically help like the bartender and her date who have been shot and stabbed by the guy, but then also very quickly run and try and drive home and beat the assassin from killing her sister and son. And then so it's like this violent confrontation at her house with the masked guy, and he drops his gun somewhere along the way. There's a plot point early in the movie where her son's got like an RC car, and he drives messages over to her, so he puts the gun on the car and then drives it over to her, and she gets it just in time to kill the guy, who turned out was like this guy in the beginning who stopped by your house like, oh, can I just read your electrical meter? I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you were doing here. So yeah, so she makes it out, her kid's alive, her sister's shot, her date also got shot, and the end of the movie is like they're at the hospital, and she's like having, I guess you would call it a second date, when she's visiting him at the hospital.
Yeah.
And she's brought him like burgers and shakes, and they're just like chatting. There's a little bit of like a fake out where she gets a drop again, but it's like the sister pranking her. And then yeah, that's the end of the movie. So
It sure is.
yes, what'd you think?
I had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, me too.
I was excited to see this because I like Christopher Landon as a director. I think Happy Death Day is fantastic. I had a lot of fun with Freaky. It's exciting to see a queer horror director, and so I was really excited for this. I like Megan Fahey. I liked her on the TV show The Bold Type. I liked her in the first season of White Lotus. So I think she was excellent in this. I think she's really, really great. I think she does a superb job vacillating between nervous and anxious about dating again after, being a single mom, a widow, and having had an abusive relationship, and that felt very authentic and real. But I also like that she's, trying to navigate this whole bonkers situation and trying to be, a charming date because, well, one, just at first she's trying to be charming, but then also because she needs to keep the guy there. So then there's that facet of it. And I just think she's really expressive with her facial expressions and what's going on. And so I think she's just really a really charming lead, and I really liked her a lot. I think this is a good mystery. I think this is really tense film. There were, especially in the beginning and in the middle of the film, it's incredibly tense. I like that for a lot of the film, it's essentially a chamber piece, and that so much of it just happens in this restaurant.
Yeah.
And yet feels really captivating as far as like, who is it? It's a good whodunit. Because any of them could be it. There are a lot of red herrings. And a lot of like little moments that make you think that, oh, it could be this person. No, it's not that person. No, it could be this person. No, it's not that person. And so I really like that it toys with the audience in that way. Yeah. And I love how, I think this is a really clever film, and I think it very cleverly uses multiple horror subgenres to tell the story. So we have the murder mystery. We have, it's, the technology component of it. I love that we also go like it's a home invasion film, and then we also by the end are straight up like slasher film running through the
Mm-hmm.
house. I really love that, and I love all of those components coming together. Yeah, I think I like the cast. I like the supporting cast as well. I especially like the woman who plays the bartender.
Yeah.
Who ends up getting stabbed. I hope she ends up being okay because I really liked her. And we never find out what happens to her other than Violet, the protagonist, is like, "You'll be okay." It's like I
Right.
don't know how the hell she knows that,
Yeah.
but yeah. So anyway, I also yeah, I was going to say something else, but no, I really like this, and I want to hear what you think, and then I want to dig into it more.
Yeah. Yeah, I was also a big fan of this.
Oh
I
yay!
found it very tense. I loved the art direction in this movie, like the design of the restaurant,
Yes,
the way that it plays with the space, the whole like kind of like tunnel from the
yes.
entryway into the other part of the restaurant. It's just so unsettling visually, and the opening of the movie also has it in a kind of like unsettling way.
Mm-hmm.
And I so the opening of the true opening of the movie is her being kind of tormented by the guy, which at the time you don't know specifically that it's her husband who's like beating her up and is like pointing a gun at her. And I actually thought it was interesting that's what it was. It was like a flashback, because I know so many movies love to start in the middle and then go, oh, let's rewind it back to like what happened earlier. And so it's like, no, this is actually a flashback. This is not currently what's happening. And I think the movie, in a smart way, uses the traumatic experiences that she's had and the abuse to kind of call back to that at various moments where it feels like, and I think she says something to this effect, like it never really left me, or it never felt like it ended, because it is for her, like it's still very fresh. It's still just, she keeps kind of drawing back to it and feeling the stress and anxiety and all of the emotions of those moments in the thick of this whole new traumatic situation that's going on. And I really like how the movie will kind of, everything will kind of fade away and drop away when she's in these moments. Like there's nothing else, like she's entirely in her own head. And I just think the effect where it's like the room becomes dark and the music that kind of pulls away and she's like sucked back into that moment, I think is really effective and really well done. And yeah, I think she's great. I like the supporting cast as well. I had seen the guy who was like the villain, Reed Diamond. I'd seen him in the most recent the Orphan Black spin-off show where he was like a evil guy. So I was kind of like, oh, maybe he could be that guy. But I also was like, maybe the movie, because there were so many, like, as you mentioned, red herrings. Like maybe it could be somebody really interesting. Like maybe it's the waiter, because the waiter is, we haven't even talked about the waiter yet. He's this like
Oh, that
crazy,
guy.
like
Yeah.
bouncing off the walls, like this is my first shift, but like also I'm a weird improv guy and I want to tell you all about the improv, and I'm gonna do weird voices and have these like really exaggerated facial expressions. So I thought like, oh, maybe it's the waiter, because he's just totally out there, it's his first shift, like he could be the person doing this. Or maybe it's the bartender, because I thought at one point like that
Yes.
would be really interesting if it's the bartender, because up until this point she seemed pretty supportive, but then she comes over to the table to see her toward the tail end, and I thought, well,
Right.
maybe this is the moment where she's gonna say, hey, like I'm the one doing this. It wasn't that, but it would have been interesting if that possibly
Yeah.
possibly
Agree.
was. So it kept me interested in the like who is the tormentor in this situation. I'm not entirely surprised it was that guy, because they made him seem like, oh, he's nerdy and awkward, so like of course like he's gonna be the evil guy that you're not supposed to suspect. I just don't really understand how he thought he was gonna get away with it, because although he says like, oh, I'm sitting over here where there's no cameras, like you've been in the restaurant where there's like 8,000 cameras already. You've been recorded. You've been here. You have a name and an identity that people have seen here. I don't know why he thought like somehow sitting in a corner with no camera was gonna like be his saving grace. But yeah. I
I
definitely found there were moments in the movie where I was dwelling on minutia like that, that was kind of sucking me out.
Yeah, see, I thought that I don't think it was great logic, but and I think he was extremely arrogant about it. But I thought that it was the fact because he talks about how they have her on camera poisoning her date and her fingerprints are on everything. So, but you're right. I would assume he would have been questioned too, if about the murder investigation. So,
Yeah, totally. Like, so I think that's like, although I very much enjoyed this movie, there's certain like moments like that kind of sucked me out of it because I was like, that doesn't make sense. It's like some minor plot points that just don't quite add up here and there. I'm trying to think of others off the top of my head, but that's like one of the bigger ones. Like toward the end, like yeah, I don't think they would, or like killing this guy. Yes, that would be a distraction because he's supposed to be like a star witness or whatever. They could like maybe cause a distraction with this other story that they're spinning up, but ultimately like the corruption would still be there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think like this guy dying might make it difficult for them to bring a case against the mayor for corruption, but I wouldn't necessarily like make the case go away, which is what they're thinking. So I don't know. It's things like that I found myself dwelling on more than I would like in an otherwise very engaging and suspenseful movie.
yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess the fact that if he's bumped off and then the SD card is destroyed, I guess they thought like, oh well, that's it. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it is a very convoluted way to like enlist this woman and threaten her and have her do all these weird things. Yeah, it's a lot of hoop jumping. But something that talking about the abuse and kind of that dovetailing with things I think this film does smartly. Is that when she goes to the lobby desk, the host stand, and she tries to get on the computer, and she immediately goes to a domestic violence website, which is so ridiculously smart because there's a live chat, and she starts to type in what the problem is, and then that's when she gets the drop that's like, don't do that, I see you, and all that. But it's so smart and like to the point where the fact that the site immediately vanishes, because with a lot of domestic violence, actually with all of them, as far as I know, they have like a quick escape. Like they'll be like, press here, and then it immediately disappears, because the whole point is like, if you are living with your abusive partner, you want to be able, like if they come in the room behind you or something, you want to be able to like evacuate the screen immediately. So it's just a little touch like that, but was really smart. Also, I'm glad you brought up the part about how she was saying that, talking about how I never left that room and I never got over the abuse. And it's still that whole scene where she's like, it's still with me when she's talking to her date. And I love that scene because as heartbreaking as it is, and everyone's situation is unique, of course, but there are some universalities. There are some truths that do transcend a lot of people's experiences. And as someone who is a survivor of domestic abuse, I love that she talks about that, because so often I think that people who haven't gone through it, they think, or really anything traumatic, I guess, but especially in this case, they think like, oh, you're out of the situation, you left your partner, or it's over, that's it, it's all over. And it's like, no. And it's like that is still like haunting, and that's still lingering, and it affects every facet of you and your life and the way you navigate the world and the decisions you make. And the fact that she's a mom on top of it, I'm sure that just compounds it even more, of course. And then the part after where she's talking about like, because like her date's like, oh, you're a great mom, I can tell. And she's like, no, I'm a terrible mom because I stayed. And it's like, oh my God, no, that's not true. You're not terrible because you stayed. Like, but I can understand why she thinks that. But yeah, so it was heartbreaking, but it felt really true to life in many ways. So yeah, so for some of the logic flaws that you're totally valid on, I do like the certain smart choices and the certain emotional beats that this does cover.
Yeah, I like those as well. I liked his kind of follow-up line to that too, her date. He said something to the effect of like, that seems to be what like abusers do, right? They like do this terrible stuff and make us think we're the ones who are wrong. And I thought that was really
Yep.
really insightful for, like, I really wasn't sure what to make of this character at first when he showed up. Like, he seemed like maybe he was a little bit sketchy, like maybe he was not the guy he was purporting
Right,
himself to be, but
right.
it seemed like at every turn he still kept giving her chances and was not like immediately thinking this woman is just, off her rocker and I just need to get out of here.
Right,
So that
right.
that was like pleasantly surprising about him.
I
But
know.
yeah.
I
And
also, sorry.
I was gonna say, the thing is, like, he knows that she's getting the drops in the beginning, especially. So it's
Yes.
like I think he would have suspected that she was continuing to get them. So, and I know why she can't tell him, but at the same time, it's like he already knows that this is happening. So such a tricky situation where I feel like she could just like blurt it out very quickly, or like give some type of like gesture toward the phone, but it's there wouldn't be a movie if we had that.
No. Well, I think also the fact that every time she does try to do something, she's, called out or thwarted or whatever. But no,
Yeah.
I was thinking that too. I was just like, point to your phone, like make eye contact with him and then like look down at the phone, something like just with your eyes. Like, yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
I was thinking that too. Yeah. But
What
I
were
agree
you
with you. I was going to say, I also liked her date. I don't know why I can't remember his name. What is his name? His name is
Henry.
Henry. Yes. I also liked that Henry brought her son a hockey puck. I thought that was very cute and very sweet. And I also like that he's like, is this weird that I brought him a present? And she's like, no, it's very sweet. But I like that. I thought that was a cute touch. Listen, it's a mess of a movie. But I did like him in It Ends With Us. He is charming in that, and I like him here, and I like the two of them together, and I like their rapport. And at first I'm like, oh, is he the guy? But then like clearly like when he's going to be poisoned, it's like, no, I don't think so, unless it's a test. But it was not a test.
No, definitely not. I also remembered another thing that I was hung up on because I was like, I don't feel like the movie explained how it could have happened. How did the dollar bill that she wrote on end up in her salad at the bottom?
Oh, under it. Yeah.
Yeah. How did that guy somehow get that back into her plate without anyone noticing? Because we didn't see it. We saw him spike the piano player's drink and take him out.
Yes.
I'm like, how the hell did he get to the salad? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. I feel like he would have had to have had someone in the kitchen. Either like a cook, the expediter, somebody, but I'm like, that's again very convoluted and
right.
But yeah, but I would say, I mean, it's one of those moments that's like great to see on screen. It's like holy shit, but then it's also like, wait a minute, how the hell did that actually happen? unless someone in the kitchen was in on it too,
right? Or the waiter somehow was, which they don't really ever show or confirm in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess the waiter could be too. But yeah, I was thinking that too I'm like, how the hell did that $20 bill get back under there?
Yeah. It's creepy as hell. I mean, props to that. Like she's eating her salad and finds it at the bottom.
I know at first, quick glance, I was like, oh my God, is her salad like spelling something out? Like,
yeah.
No, somehow creepier, the $20 bill.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you were also mentioning before about how the movie kind of shifts into a different mode when she runs back to her house. It becomes very much like a slasher movie. Yeah, it's very tense and very scary when the son and the sister are being stalked by that guy. And then later when she arrives and confronts him, I thought that the whole scene was very well shot when he threw her on the island and she like slid across the island and fell to the floor. Just the whole shift in perspective. And then when he tossed her over the table and you just see her land on the other side of the table through the bottom of the, like, I thought that was all extremely well done, really well shot, really well edited, and just tense and scary.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of tension in this movie, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, Christopher Landon, a big fan of his between the Happy Death Day movies and Freaky. Yeah. Really enjoyed those movies quite a bit.
Yeah. It's funny though, because those are comedic, like those have a very different vibe to them. And yeah, so I mean, we get a little bit of comedy with the new waiter. But
Right.
this is not a comedic movie, like, at
No.
all, except
Yeah.
for the part when the villain guy who's been sending all the drops, and he says, like, I'm 2 moves ahead of you. I'm playing chess and you're playing Yahtzee. And then, like, when he realizes that she's poisoned him, and she's like, Yahtzee.
Yeah.
So that's
That was
comedic.
funny. Yeah, there are some comedic moments in this, even though it's not. Like, there's dark comedy in here for sure.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that up, because now it's reminding me of something else that also bothered me, that I felt like was incongruous about the movie. So we know that she is understandably freaking out in this situation.
Yes.
And we see it on her face constantly. And other people in the movie can tell that something is going on, and she's not having an easy time hiding it. Understandable. So during that whole conversation, she says to him, "Oh, and I'm just, like I always did. I just pretended like everything was fine." And I'm like, "But you haven't been pretending everything was fine this entire time. Like, you've been losing your mind, understandably, but you are not doing that now. So that does not add up with what you're telling me about how you used to be versus how you are in this situation." So
yeah. No, her character is not a very good actor. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like, so much so that when she goes into the bathroom and she's like smashing the SD card, a woman goes in and is like, nope, and like walks right out. Like, various people are going up to her asking if she's okay. The bartender goes up and asks her if she's okay. She's like, I've been noticing you're tense all night. I do love that she's like, if you need me to get you out of here, I can. Like, yeah.
Even the waiter, she said, even the waiter noticed. Like, the waiter flagged that to me.
Yes.
So I was like, wow, okay, he's a goofball, but an observant goofball, I guess.
Right. I guess comedians are observant. Like, they're or should be observant if they're good comedians.
Yikes. His whole improv sketch that he was talking about sounded so painful.
By the way, it just... I have a friend who hates improv, and she always says, no, I'm not going to go to your improv show.
Yeah.
Anyway, no shade to improv per se, but I just think it was, I don't know. That's all I could think of while watching.
Yeah. I mean, I'll throw a little shade at improv. Like, I love comedy. I love sketch comedy, stand up. And I like improv, but you have to be good. And there is a giant gulf between people who are good and people who are not. And most of people doing improv, I'm going to be honest, sorry listeners, are not good. It's not good. I mean, I've been to my fair share of like local improv shows. They're not good.
I will say kudos to anybody getting up there, having the guts to do it. It's, any kind of performance is difficult. You're putting yourself out there. It's a vulnerable thing, but yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, no, totally. Props for putting yourself out there, but yeah, not everyone is the brilliant improv comedian that they think that they are.
No, but it was hilarious him telling them, like, they're on his first date, which is already awkward, just by nature, and launching into that nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very memorable performance by the actor.
Yes,
just totally bonkers and off the wall. What else?
I don't know. I think I've said everything. Did you have more that you thought about the film?
No, I think we covered it. I mean, here, like I said, here and there, I thought of more examples of things that were kind of like getting under my skin. But like, I really did enjoy this movie. I did think it was well done. I think it's very tense. It's well acted. There's a lot of great, misdirections here and there. The space itself is really visually interesting. It's shot and edited in an interesting way that, can hold your attention. So yeah, I really dug this, and I would say I would recommend it to people for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say I agree with all of that. I think the only other things that I noticed, these are kind of like minor things, are that I do not believe this was a real restaurant, because sitting through the entire credits, it was filmed in Ireland at a studio, so I don't believe this is real, but it is a beautiful space. Like, I was really captivated by it. Gorgeous lighting too. And at the end of the credits, there is a domestic violence hotline number that if you are experiencing abuse, call. So that is, nice to see. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's a weird thing to say. I had a lot of fun with this only because I'm like talking about domestic abuse and like I had a lot of fun. But this is a fun movie.
Yeah.
And it handles intense issues really, really well. Yeah. Oh, the only other thing I was going to say, I meant to say this earlier when you were talking about the visuals, of when she's having these moments where she's kind of like ducking out of and the light fades and the sound fades and it's just her. It
Mhm.
very much reminded me, but in a very warped way, it very much reminded me of West Side Story, the original West Side Story, when Tony and Maria see each other and they only see
Mm.
each other and
Yeah.
everyone else kind of is blurred in the background and the sound fades. Very much like that. But that's like a beautiful, like, oh, I only have eyes for you. That
Right.
kind of infatuation attraction. Whereas this is like, oh God, I'm going into the doldrums, the depths of despair. I'm, so despondent. But yes, but still done very, very well. So
Right. Yeah, not unlike the sunken place from Get Out.
yes, yes, exactly.
Mhm. All right. Yeah, I think listeners, we would both highly recommend Drop.
Yeah, a lot of
And
fun.
I can't say I can recommend Sacramento. I feel bad saying so, but I just can't go there.
No, unfortunately, I can't either.
Oh, there you have it, folks. Those are our recommendations for the week. Those are our thoughts. We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. I want to say a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clamor. Otto, thank you for making us sound so great week after week.
Thanks, Otto.
You can find us anywhere you get podcasts, but you can also go to our website, which is spoilerpiece.com. We're all of our social media. We're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook. We're at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram. We're on Threads and Blue Sky now also, so you can hit us up there. You can also send us an email if you want to chat with us, spoilerpiece@gmail.com. You can tell us your thoughts on Sacramento, Drop, talk to us maybe about Real Genius if you didn't listen to the Patreon, or if you did. We talk about Val Kilmer movies or pretty much anything else you want to chat about. We love hearing from listeners. So you can do that, or you can give us a call.
At 862-21-PEACE.
Leave us a voicemail, shoot us a text. We love to hear from you. And if you really like the show, please consider rating and reviewing us. You can go to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. You can leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those places. Super helpful. Helps us gain cred in the podcast world. And if you really, really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon. I mentioned at the top of the episode, we talked about 1985 film Real Genius in honor of Val Kilmer. And yeah, that was a fun combo. So $5 a month, as I said, you get weekly bonus episodes and you get to vote in monthly polls. So consider that. If you're a patron, thank you for supporting us and thank you for listening to this episode. My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast. You can follow me on social media as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
And my name is Megan Kearns. I write for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Blue Sky and Twitter at Opinion S World or on Instagram and Letterboxd at The Opinion S.
See you next week.
Bye.